Let's go watch it in 2D. No, let's go watch it in 3D. But if we watch it in 3D, then is it worth the cost?
I read this study about superpowers, and in 6 out of 10, belief is the key.
I believe I can fly! I believe I can fly! Superman! Superman, what arm is it?
Your phone's charged.
What the hell?
Shazam!
Hello. This is Adolf Vega, and today I'm here reviewing
Shazam.
And I have with me, as you just heard, Jake Jarvis. And Jake saw this in 3D, so he will lead the 3D section of this movie, and I only watched it in 2D. So, Jake, how was the 3D?
3D was good, but it suffered a little flatness in a lot of scenes because of how dark it is. Maybe that's a projection issue, but I gotta call him as I see it. So I would say, if you're not a real 3D fanatic, 2D is fine for this.
So I noticed it being dark, like darkly lit in many scenes, not dark like themes, so that's just kind of how the movie is shot, unfortunately. And I don't think there was a need to have it so dark. But was there some scenes that really stood out for the 3D?
Yeah, there was a car crash scene that particularly really stood out. Because it just really just drove the impact home. And then the scenes in the Rock of Eternity really stood out too as well in 3D.
Okay.
But unfortunately, a lot of scenes with lightning and stuff, they really missed an opportunity to get in there and really make it pop, because it didn't.
Is it good depth here or there, or not really?
Not really. In some scenes where there was more, where it was brighter, yeah, there was some good definition, but not a lot and not enough, I think, to justify the expense unless you are, like I said, a 3D fanatic and love the stuff.
Okay, so overall, good, not great, not amazing, just good.
Yeah, just good.
Not super.
Yeah, not super.
Not marvelous.
Yeah, not marvelous.
All right. Now, on to the movie itself. So, Shazam is quite a different movie than most of the other DC movies. It takes place the movie starts off in the past, and you get to know the villain first, which is interesting. And you get to see that, you come back to the present, and you see that a wizard wants to get his powers onto a good person, and that good person is Billy Batson. Now, there's a huge, long story with Captain Marvel and Shazam and DC owning and Marvel and different comics and stuff, but we're not going to get into it here. So the story here is, Billy Batson, a 14-year-old foster kid, finds a wizard and becomes a superhero named Shazam, who has several superpower abilities. And he's trying to figure out how to use them. And the villain that the movie starts off with is Dr. Savannah.
Savannah.
Okay. I don't know how to pronounce it right, but okay. And
Sylvana is probably the closest.
And he wants to take the power away from Billy. And that leads to the basic conflict of the movie. Without any other spoilers, what is that basically it, or is there more to it?
That's basically it. It's it's basically it's a really good postmodern take on the superhero genre, but in a way that's different than Lord and Miller's take on it. And it's really scary. This movie rides its PG-13 hard, so parents may want to think twice about their kids under 10 seeing this. I mean, there's a lot of frights in here. This movie really reminds me of the 1984 version of Ghostbusters with its mix of humor and horror.
Yeah, and I don't think it's ever too scary. Or I noted that there seems to be a lot of cursing in this movie that I don't think it was really necessary. I mean, it's not terrible. There's no F words here. There's a lot of S words. But it just seemed a little bit like they didn't need to have that in the script, but they put it in there anyway.
Yeah.
And people have compared it to like Big, which is kind of a fair comparison. But I mean, Big came out over 30 years ago, so it's kind of hard to compare that movie now when people may have not seen it now. I know of Big, but I've never actually seen it. So
I did. Like, there's a tribute scene in the movie, just like there's a little homage to the movie Rocky. I mean, being set in Philadelphia, that's a no-brainer.
And it's set in Christmas time, which is kind of weird.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. Well, I was thinking, somebody here likes Shane Black movies.
The movie is mostly a comedy, and it completely succeeds as being comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I think it's probably the funniest comic book movie since Deadpool, which is saying a lot, because I thought Deadpool was hilarious, too. But this is pretty wholesome hilarious,
Yeah, they kind of cracked the kid code to make a kid-friendly, funny superhero movie.
And I really feel, that when I was a 14-year-old kid, I would be doing everything that this movie did. Basically. If I had superpowers. So it feels very authentic. Like maybe the young actor that plays Billy really helped with the script or something, because it doesn't feel corny. I mean, it is corny, but it doesn't feel corny. It's kind of, it just works. It works in this environment. And talking about the kids, I think the cast here is great.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I really think there's a great cast in this. Now, maybe some of the kids might have, there were some times I was thinking maybe one kid should play the other kid. But then again, if that happened, thinking about it, they wouldn't have been able to interact with an adult counterpart. So, and the interactions were so good between the adults and the kids that if you'd switched it up, it might have not been as good. So,
it's really
it won't make any sense without spoilers. So, what I just said, but trust me, if once you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Overall, there's some issues here with the villain being a little underdeveloped, and some of the things are not explained as well as I would have liked. But overall, I really love this movie. What do you give this, Jake?
Oh, I give this a solid 8 out of 10.
All right, I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'll give it a 9. I love this movie. All right, that's basically it for our spoiler-free version of this review. Bye.
Bye.
All right, before this podcast ends, I want to give a thank you to my patrons. Right now, we have one patron, which is David from Spain, and I want to thank you for your financial support. All right, so that's going to be it for this podcast.
We now have a Patreon, and the link is in the description. Thanks for watching.
And we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a little bit everywhere. Just look for us, 3D or 2D. And of course, review us on iTunes. And if you want to write us a letter, our email address is email3dortwo d@gmail.com. So that's going to be it. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.